everybody, happy Thursday. Now today's question is all about bipolar 1 disorder. What is it and how can it feel to those who have it? And just as a reminder, I release videos on Mondays and on Thursdays, so make sure you're subscribed and have your notifications turned on so that you don't miss out. Now to get into what bipolar 1 disorder is, first I want to read to you what the diagnostic criteria is. And if you don't know what I mean by diagnostic criteria, just know that this is what mental health professionals like myself use to help them determine what mental illness you have. They look into the DSM or other manual, depending on what country you live in, and they check to see if your symptoms line up with the diagnosis they are considering. With all that said, in order to be diagnosed with bipolar 1 disorder, you must meet the criteria for a manic episode. Now, the manic episode may have a hypomanic, meaning not quite as high leveled, or a major depressive episode, meaning swinging way into the low side, feeling super depressed. So it may have one of those episodes before or after it, but you just have to meet the criteria for a manic episode. And in order to do that, you must have a distinct period of abnormality and persistently elevated, expansive, or irritable moods, and abnormally and persistently increased goal-directed activity or energy. And this has to last for at least 1 week and present most of the day, nearly every day. And during this period, you must also have 3 or more of the following symptoms. Number 1, inflated self-esteem or grandiosity. Number 2, decreased need for sleep. You could feel rested maybe after only 3 hours or so. Number 3, you are more talkative than usual or feel internal pressure to keep talking. In my practice, I notice this when I can't seem to get a word in with a patient and they just keep talking almost without taking a breath. Number 4, you can have a flight of ideas or feel like your thoughts are racing. And this is really when we can feel like we're having way too many good ideas and we can't even capture them all. Many of my patients have said that this can feel like all their good ideas are just slipping through their fingers. Number 5, distractibility. And this is kind of self-explanatory, but we can be easily pulled into things that aren't important or struggle to stay on topic. Number 6, an increase in goal-oriented activity. This can be at work, school, socially. We can even be overly sexual or feel agitated. And in my experience, most of my patients will be focused on one major thing, like this presentation they want to put together for work or a party that they're going to throw. It's going to be the best thing ever. Or they just feel really irritated with anything and everything. And number 7, and the last one, is excessive involvement in activities that have a high potential for painful consequences. And this is the one that really bothers my patients the most. This is when we go on shopping sprees or just overspend in general. We can have a sexual encounter that we usually wouldn't. We can foolishly invest money, and the list can go on and on and on. Pretty much we do things that we normally wouldn't. And once we come down from this manic episode that we've been in, these are the things that can push us down into that depressive episode because we can feel extreme guilt, embarrassment, or just upset with the choices that we made. Now, this manic episode must impair our ability to function in our life, socially, at work or school. You know the drill. This comes along with all diagnostic criteria. But bipolar 1 cannot be due to a medical condition or induced by drugs or medication, other than an antidepressant. Because if you aren't aware, when we're misdiagnosed as having depression, which happens all the time, then we'll put us on an antidepressant when we really have bipolar 1 disorder. And that antidepressant has the ability to push us into a manic episode, because a lot of antidepressants have this stimulating response and this stimulating symptom that they give. And so if we're feeling really depressed, it can push us straight out of that and all the way into mania. And many of my patients have had this happen. And that's why it's really important to track our symptoms, ask any question that we may have, and ensure that we are properly diagnosed. Because remember, you know yourself and your experience best. Now, the final part of this question is, what can bipolar 1 feel like to someone who has it? And that's honestly going to be really hard for me to describe fully because As you know, everyone is different. So I encourage any of you who have bipolar 1 disorder to leave in the comments how it feels to you. What's your experience? And that way, we can all learn from one another and be more informed and educated. But based on my experience in my office, bipolar 1 disorder can feel good at times because mania can be a little euphoric. But this feeling doesn't always last very long. But when my patients are sort of ramping up into this manic episode, they can really struggle to see it as a problem. And they feel good about how productive they're being, or they're really enjoying the surge of energy, because usually this comes out of a depressive episode. So they're like, ooh, goody. And I've also had patients and viewers tell me that mania can often be really, really uncomfortable, almost like you want to just crawl out of your skin. And if we find ourselves having a mixed episode when we have both mania and depression happening at the same time, we can feel really irritable and uncomfortable. And this can also happen if someone stops us from doing what we want when we're manic, or sort of gets in the way of us engaging in our manic behavior. And I've had this happen in sessions when I notice a patient is manic and I try to intervene. They can get really upset and be quick to anger. So know that while mania can feel good at times, that's not always the case. Just like any mental illness, we have to ask questions and seek to understand what it's like for the person in our life who has bipolar disorder. That way we can better understand them and their experience. And finally, I just want to talk about the come down. Often when people talk about bipolar disorder, they talk about the mania or the depression, forgetting that there's this time in between. And following a manic episode, like I mentioned briefly before, it's very common for someone to be filled with shame, embarrassment, and guilt. So being a little understanding and compassionate can go a long way during this time frame. I mean, imagine if you didn't feel like yourself, you weren't able to make thoughtful decisions, and you felt like you were on top of the world, only to come down and realize that you did things you wish you hadn't. That can be really hard. And until we find the right medication, therapy, and get to know our own early signs of mania, that's really, really helpful, by the way, but we can have episodes like this every few months or so. So if you think that you may have bipolar 1 disorder, just know that you can live a very full and wonderful life. You just have to find the treatment that works best for you. And I hope this information was helpful. Please let me know if I left anything out, or if you have any other thoughts that you would like to share. Share those down in the comments, and I will see you next time. Bye.